Hello, good morning. How are you all doing? I apparently have a blank screen. That's not good. Okay. Well, OBS, thank you for... Oh, I'm gonna have to reset you. My screen capture device. Apparently, screen capture? My splitter. That failed. Okay, that works. Here we go. We are back. All right, so welcome. We are back to Docker days again. So let's bring up my windows again, since they all got moved around. Right, we're now doing something like this. Zilby is here, but he's not on his desk. Zilby, wanna hang out? Let me see if I can find him. He was just sitting there on the floor purring, staring at me. One of these days, Zilby may want us to just do a stream where all we do is pet Zilby. And that will be fine. All right. So let's see. What did we get to last time? Last time we finished recording all the videos for deving with Docker. So I think there's 3 lessons in the last section, but of course they're really long. So I don't know if we're gonna get through all the videos today. Probably not. Maybe we'll get to them by the end of the week though. That would be good. Then I can start uploading and doing all that fun stuff. Oh, and we have some other little videos like a trailer and other things to make too. Okay, are you done? Wait, you went on that side? Okay. Still no, still, okay. What's up with this? This is weird. So I have my window up and I can't see it in OBS, and you can't see it either. But the chats are up, which you can see. That's odd. There we go. Okay. Let me bring down the chats like that. There we go. I think we're good. What do you want? Want me? He probably wants me to play with him. I didn't get a chance this morning, so that's what he wants. Or in lieu of that, he wants to let me into the closet behind me, which he's not allowed to go into. Or rather, we have 2 closets. One closet he is allowed to go into and he doesn't care, and the other closet he's not allowed to go into and he cares a lot about that. Okay, using Alpine to reduce Docker sizes. Okay, so content. Let's take a look at our Docker images. So we have those, and obviously this one is like 1.11 gigabytes. That's fun. We don't have too many images yet. Take a look at the amount of data they're using on our SSD. Over 1 gigabyte for each image created from node 20. If we aren't careful, we can fill up our disk drive really quickly with these large images. Also, if we're in a network-restricted environment like CI/CD or have slower internet speeds, then it might be a good idea to use smaller base images. We can do this with a different base Linux distro like Alpine. We only need to update our Docker file for the Express CRUD project to take advantage of Alpine Linux. We'll start with the from node 20. We can take a look at all the possible tags available to us at, okay, there. We know that we need to use version 20, so we want 20 combined with Alpine. Use the filter to help find the specific image tag that we're looking for. This means that we can now use from node 20 Alpine to take advantage of a smaller base image. We need to update two things in a Docker file to work with Alpine. So, okay, so this is a couple things. So first is use an Alpine image to for smaller Alpine based image. It's really like find. How about that? Find a tag, an Alpine Docker Hub. And then we need to update update the Docker file to work with Alpine. It's those two things, right? Run user add -d/code-m works great in Ubuntu, but isn't a command available in Alpine. The Alpine wiki has a page for the add user command, which is available. Using the wiki, we can update our user add command to run add user-h/code-d/h-code. The -h is the equivalent of the -d and sets the home directory for the new user. The -d disables the password. We were doing this before by not having a password, but we need to be explicit in add user. -h doesn't create the home directory, which is what we want since we already created it. Curl isn't available to us in Alpine, so we'll have to set a new command. However, we do have access to wget. With wget, here's our new health check. So there's that. So I guess it's really not just update. This is find an Alpine image tag in Docker Hub. Okay, so what do I really want to do? I want to update, okay, create, use add user to create a user in an Alpine image, and then use wget instead of curl. Okay, so with wget, here's a new health check. By default, wget will download the response to a file. We don't want to do this, so the spider option will just check that the route exists, but not actually download and save it. The -q command will make wget be silent, which helps reduce clutter in the logs. The rest of the command is the same as curl. Rebuild. We'll rebuild our Docker Compose with the --build options that Docker will rebuild from the Docker file. If we forget that option, then a previous image will still be used, as we won't see a size difference. Okay, so we do Docker Compose down. Oh, and then we bring it back up again. Now we can check our images again and see that the image for the Docker Compose is significantly smaller. We went from 1.11 gigabytes for the Express CRUD image to 145 megabytes. That's a significant difference that will allow us to have more images on our systems, faster loading in CI/CD, and cost us less network costs in our production environments if we use Docker in production. There we go. Okay. So when I want to do recording for this, I probably don't want to have chat on screen. So I'm going to move these over here. I assume they're working too. Okay, so I want to, okay, we need to set up our things, something like that. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? Let's go find, okay, Express CRUD. We'll open up code here. All right, so I think we should all be set up. I want to make sure, yep, I'm an introduction to Docker, so that's good. We only have that one. Apparently we have a new version of the Docker extensions. That's good. What else do I need? I need, fine, you can install that. Oh, did I hit the microphone? I'm sorry if I did. Okay, I think we're good to go. So, it's the things that we actually do. Okay, we have to find the Alpine image. We have to, then we have to go through and we have to figure out how to do user add user. We can try running the build, and I think that it fails. Den, hello. How are you doing today? And then we update the health check with wget. Okay, which I have those things here, so I can just scroll over and take a look at them. Let me full screen that over here. So that'll be a little bit easier. You're good to go there. What else did I want to do? Oh, I wanted to open up Canva. We have our introduction to Docker stuff. So this is use Alpine Linux to reduce Docker image sizes. Okay, that's good. So I just come over here. Oh, browser for Docker Hub, specifically with the node. So we're gonna go find Docker Hub 20 with Alpine. Oh, and then finally, I'm actually really curious. What do we have here? I have so many of these. Okay. I kind of want to delete everything. Let's just start over again. Make sure that that's down. Okay, so now I've got absolutely nothing. So let's bring this back up with a Docker compose. Oh, because we just did watch in the last time, and so I want to. We could just do a Docker watch. That's going to be fine. Because we did that in the last video, I think. And so that's where we've got everything set up for it. So this will be fine. Oh, I should turn on the what is it called, the timer for Nightbot. Although that's really just Twitch chat. Okay, so you're up and running. So if in a different window we now say Docker images, that's too small. Let's open this like an actual different terminal. Okay, so we now see Express CRUD app 1.1 gigabytes. Perfect. So then the other thing that I'm curious about, if I do a Docker compose watch, is there... I think it does a new build every time I start, right? So I don't have to do anything special, but I can mention that we can use the -- build if you're using Docker compose up, but if we have Docker watch, then we just run it again and it should rebuild. The only thing I can think of to test this would be to change the Docker file really quickly right now. So let's do like the very end. So let's do run touch / code / hello, or maybe just code hello. And so if I rerun this again, yes, okay, I think it is rebuilding. It is rebuilding, so I don't have to do anything special. It just runs, and I can mention, if you're not using Docker Watch, you'll need to use the -- build option to rebuild the Docker file. Otherwise, nothing will change. And that's always fun, is to run a code and nothing changes. And then you have no idea why. You failed. Why did you fail? Uh-oh. No such host. This just worked. Wait, I think it just worked now too. Okay, so local DNS problem? Or an internet blip or something? I'm not getting any drop frames, so it's not that. I don't know what that was. That's weird. Okay, so you're back up and working again. Excellent. So I don't need to keep any of you up and running. We can just keep you here. Docker images will now show you to be what we thought. Okay, excellent. So with that being said and done, I think we're about ready to get started. Let me get rid of that run. We'll switch over to here. I think we're pretty much set up for it. First recording of the day. This one shouldn't be too terribly long because we're just doing this, but I would expect that it might be like 20 minutes or so. Because there's like 3 parts that we have to do and we have to sort of like work through them. So that's my expectation. So with that being said, I'm gonna be not paying attention to chat. I'm going to be focusing more on just doing the video. If any of you have any questions, thoughts, comments, go ahead and put them into chat. I do have them up on another monitor right now, and so I can see them. And if it makes sense, I'll work them into the video. Otherwise, I'll respond immediately after when we're done. And with that all being said and done, let's jump into it. So I don't think we need anything else to do, so here we go. So far, we've been able to build our images with whatever we need from Docker Hub. In this case, it's a Node.js application that's set to version 20. Let's take a look at how much space is being taken up by this. Okay, so if we run the Docker images command, we see that our ExpressCRUD app is taking up 1.1 gigabytes of space on our disk drive, which is a lot. Now, I'm privileged in having a fairly large disk drive that I have, but I also bought it knowing that I was going to have a lot of Docker images, a lot of other things on it, and I needed a space. But there's another way, because we don't have to accept that all of our images have to be, 1.1 gigabytes or larger. We could try to do something to make them a little bit smaller. And one of the ways is to use a different base repo rather than Ubuntu or Debian or one of those. There is a Linux version called Alpine, and Alpine is a very trimmed down, bare bones, basic Linux repo that can be used in slim versions of Docker. Let's go ahead and implement this ourselves. The first thing we have to do is actually find it. So in preparation for that, let's go ahead and open up our Docker file. Now, where we have this like from node 20, well, the node is gonna have to be here because it's gonna be the same image, but it's gonna be a different tag. So it's gonna be something to do with this. We need to go find in Docker Hub which tag it is that we need to load Alpine version of Node. Okay, so let's go search for Node. Here you are. If we go to our tags, I want to search for 20. Now, can I also do Alpine at the same time? No, of course not. It wants it like to be specific. So let's search for 20. Now there is a 20 slims that might work. It doesn't tell me right here. I could probably find what is based on, but I bet there's one based upon like Alpine that we can find directly, and we want it just basically 20 itself. I am noticing that they're all like dash, so let's try this. 20 dash. So here we go. We have 20 slim, buster, bullseye. Still, oh, here it is. Alpine 3.19, Alpine 23.18. Okay. So I don't actually care that much about the specific version of Alpine that we're using. So instead of locking it to like, version 3.18 of Alpine, we're just going to use 20 Alpine. And that's going to give us the hopefully latest version of Alpine and the latest version of tag 20, which should be Node version 20. Okay, so let's go ahead and use this 20-Alpine. So 20 Alpine. Now, we have a couple problems here. First off, Alpine is no longer based on Debian, which is good. That's what we're going for, right? But some Linux commands aren't consistent across different repos of Linux. Now, Ubuntu is a derivative of Debian. And so the commands that you find on Debian and Ubuntu-based images are going to be the same. But if they're based upon something else, like Alpine, they might have some different commands. And in this case, we have two that we have to worry about. First is going to be this user add command, because user add doesn't exist. Let's go ahead and just run node 20 Alpine ourselves and sort of like figure out how user add works. So if we drop down here, I'm going to do a Docker run the IT so we can connect into it. I'm going to use the --rm to remove the image as soon as we're finished with it. I don't need to keep it around as a container. This is a test image, a test container, as it were. Okay, so IT remove. I don't need to give it a name. I don't need to give it any ports or anything else. We just want to go in so we can look at the health check command and the user add command, because those are what we're going to have to change. So let's go. We'll jump into node 20 Alpine, and we'll override the command with bin bash, which actually that's also not true, because bash is not available in Alpine either. Their default shell in Alpine is something called ash. So we're going to go into bin ash. Now it can't find the image locally, so it has to pull it down. And there we go. We're in now. Okay, so first thing, user add. Now, if I just try to type user add, it's just going to tell me, hey, it's not found. And instead of trying to go and install it, well, there is an add user. And so if we take a look at the help for this, it's very similar to user add, but just subtly different. So we want to do add user and then any options, with options here being okay to set the home directory. So if I want to recreate what we had here, we want to make dir /code, want to add user. And so thinking about this is setting the directory to code. Well, this is home directory. So let's try H to code. I don't know or care about the geckos field. I don't really care about setting what shell this user is going to have. I'll let them create a group by default. I don't want to create a system users. Okay, D, don't assign a password. If you assign a password, that user can be logged into, and we generally don't want to log in as this user. And when we're connecting into it from Docker, we're sort of like, we're not really logging in, we're just connecting as the user. There's a really subtle difference in there. So therefore we don't want to create it with a user, with a password. Also, let's not create that home directory. I don't need to set the user ID, and I don't need to set up the skeleton like that /code with a skeleton directory. We just want whatever we have in here. Okay, so that's options and then user. So we want that to be code, and then group should automatically be created. So if I run that, we should now be able to see in cat etc passwd, here's this code directory created, and it's pretty much exactly what we expect. So let me bring this up again, and I'm going to copy this, and we're going to replace this user add here. Okay, so that does that. We've now created our user. Chown is the same command in different, in both Linuxes, so that's fine. The health check is the only other one that we have to worry about, and that's because curl is not available by default on Alpine. Now, we could install it on Alpine. You could figure out what the package manager is, update that, and install it, but there's a better way because they do have something else. They have wget. So wget is similar to curl, but instead of dumping everything to standard out, it wants to dump things to a file. So we just have to now, just like with add user, we have to figure out what's the equivalent of our command with wget, and then we'll just plug that in here. So wget. Okay, so you want optional C, Q, or S. So C is continue retrieval of Brodo Shadowfall. I don't want to do that. Q is quiet. That sounds appropriate. And then S is show server response. I don't want to do that, so it's probably going to be wget quiet. Spider, only check URL existence. Basically, is it successful? That sounds exactly right. So I'm going to spider. If we don't put the spider in, it's actually going to download the file and then save it to the disk. I mean, it's not really that big of a problem, but if we're trying to be slim, we don't want to create more things on our computer if we don't really need to. So let's just sort of keep that off. Output to a file. I don't need to output to a file for this. I don't want to output to a log file. I don't need to set a header. I don't need to set any post data or post file. Y is to use a proxy. We don't need that. P is to save to directory. I don't need that. I don't need to set a user agent for this. And I don't need a network time read timeout. I think it has some defaults for us, and those will work just fine. And then the URL. So in this case, the URL would be this one. So if we copy that, now obviously this is going to fail because the connection is refused, because it doesn't exist. It doesn't know how to find that. But this should be the command that we want to use. And if it's not, our build command will fail. So let's go ahead and update you. And we'll save you. Here is what the Docker file now looks like. The big differences again are the from we've changed to include Alpine. We've updated our add user command, and we've updated the health check. Everything else should remain the same, but we have to obviously check this to make sure it's still working. Now, in the previous video, we updated our Docker Compose to use Docker Compose Watch. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. However, if you didn't end up using Watch and you're just using normal Docker Compose up, make sure you use a -- build with the Docker Compose up in order to rebuild the Docker file. Otherwise, everything will just use the previous version of the Docker file that was already built to be faster. That's the goal of Docker Compose for us. And then nothing will change. Like, it won't be any smaller, which will be confusing. So let's quit out of here, and I'm going to do the Docker Compose Watch. So Docker Compose Watch doesn't need that -- build because it already rebuilds the image every time that we run it. Okay, so it recreated. Database is healthy. It started this app. We can see here's our updated commands, so that's good. Okay, and watch configurations. That seems to be working. Let's switch over to this other terminal here, and I'm going to do a Docker images. And we should see now that our Express CRUD app is now 142 megabytes, which is significantly better than our 1.1 gigabytes that we had previously. And this is with our copy, because when we set up Docker Compose Watch, one of the things that we do is we copy in all of our code into the image. So it's 142 megabytes, including all of the node modules, including everything else. So that's really good. That's a pretty significant savings for us. I think that's everything that we have here. We have, let's see, as a quick review, we updated our image that we're based on to one based on Alpine, which is itself significantly smaller. We have then updated our add user command because that's not consistent. That's not available on Alpine. And then also the health check, we had to switch to wget instead of curl. And that's it. Then everything just sort of continues to work the way we expect it to, and we've just saved close to a gigabyte of size, which is really awesome. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Den, I saw the message, and I was like, I don't know if that belongs in a video or not, so I'll answer it now though. What is the size of the image when you change the run command in the Docker file? Example, run makedir / code and as user. So if I do them all in one run command, so basically one layer instead of multiple. Here, let's find out. So this was 142 megabytes. If you want me to do like this, right? That's all the runs together. So let's save you. We'll redo our watch again. Also, I guess I could bring these back. Since we're between... also, Zilby's here. Zilby climbed up while we were recording. no size difference. So this is the previous one that we had, 142 megabytes, and then this is the new one that was just created, which is also 142 megabytes. So if it is a size difference, it's less than 1 megabyte. I hope that, does that help? Now, what that did do though was it is now just a single, it's a single layer for all those commands together. And that's important for caching purposes. So it can be like, it's not necessarily faster to sort of like redo, but if you have to redo one of them, all of them need to be rerun, which is either good or bad depending upon your use case. Is the reason why you see a lot of people do like apt update and apt install, because you don't want to like cache the update and then have that not be up to date anymore. You want them all, like if you change one thing, it has to like rerun the entire thing, as opposed to like accept a cache layer. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm going to put this back though, because I didn't do that, and I don't want people to get confused. Okay, there's run. Everything's good again. We're happy. 142 megabytes is so good. I just love seeing like the size differences. All right, so that is, I need to figure out a way when I move it over to like be in the right size. I wonder if there's like something I can do with rectangle to, oh, I wonder if I can like have it remember. That would be nice. Oh, I think it does. Restore is option control. Okay, so if I do something like full screen, option control. Oh yeah, that works. So, okay. I'll just have to remember that keyboard command that I can use it over again. Nope, I don't want to be on that one. I want to be on. This is 048. Okay. Containerize with Helix. All right, our first this is going to be the bigger one. This one I think took us like an entire day to figure out, but it might be faster like once we know what we're doing, but there's still a lot of moving parts for it. I think these last two each took us one full stream to like research and figure out. Oh, there's a lot of these. Okay. Most of them are H2s. Okay, so if I just select everything and I want to search for hash, we'll just add those to there. And I'll just drop those down. Everything else has been updated properly. Okay, cool. And I don't have anything weird like H7s. H6s is the highest you can go in Markdown. So we're good. We're good to go for that. Okay. Dockerizing Helix. So this is a challenge, right? So let's call this Dockerizing Helix challenge. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to let me change this. By the end of this challenge, you will have created a Docker image to be used as an executable. Wrapped the CLI editor Helix in a Docker image. And I think that's it. I think those are those two. Okay. Dockerizing Helix challenge. Objectives. By the end of this challenge, you will have created a Docker image to be used as an executable, wrapped the CLI editor Helix in a Docker image. Content. In the previous lessons, we've used Docker as an aid for developing. There is another way that we can use Docker as an executable. We're still going to run the container with Docker run, but the idea here is that we'll be wrapping a program inside a Docker image so that we don't need to worry about configurations or even installing the program to work with it. In this case, we'll be Dockerizing Helix. I recommend trying to follow along and then try to Dockerize a program you use. I think I want to switch the I to we. We recommend trying to follow along and then try to Dockerize and then trying to Dockerize a program you use. Code. The repo for this project can be found on GitHub at, and then I have this Dockerize Helix. All right. What is Helix? Helix is a CLI, is A, and Helix is A, I think. Helix is a CLI editor similar to NeoVim or Emacs. As in, it's an editor that can run in the terminal, and it comes with many of the features that we expect out of graphical core editors, like VS Code. And similar to many code editors, we can configure them to customize the experience to exactly what we want. Before we implement this ourselves, let's give this editor a try. Run this command in a directory where you have code. So Docker run, remove it, v, and so like we have the code, and then we just Helix. And then also same thing for Windows. We'll be dropped into an editor. Use space F to open a file menu and hit enter to open a file of your choice. If this is a Rust project, the LSP, Language Server Protocol, will load and give feedback. Currently, as of 2024-01-31, the configuration only supports Rust. You can use Vim motions to move around, K up, J down, H left, L right. When you're done, press Escape, Q, return to exit out. This is an example of how we can put a program into Docker and run it without having it installed on our computer, on our system. On our system. We only need Docker. In the following sections, we'll be recreating this ourselves. Walkthrough. When creating a Docker image that wraps around the program, we need to begin with the end in mind. In this case, we want to put Helix in Docker and make it available for anyone to use, regardless if they have Helix or not. As I do a lot of Rust development, so as Brooks Builds does, a lot of Rust development we're going to focus on getting Helix to work with Rust code. Create a repo. The first step is to create a repo on GitHub. We're going to be publishing this, we're going to be publishing this image to Docker Hub, so having this be open source is fine. There are private Docker repositories like GitHub Container Repository, which are useful if you have private code or other images that you don't want publicly available. Create a Docker file. Create a Docker file just like before. We'll need to decide what operating system to base this on. Since Helix is going to require a lot of build tools, we want to keep things as slim as possible, so we'll be going with Alpine. Ubuntu is another great choice, and a lot of public images choose it. So we start with our Docker file from Alpine latest, volume code, work directory code. Since this is an editor, we'll be needing to volume mount a directory from the host system into the container. So we'll create one at /code, and the workdir will set the default directory to be that volume mount. We'll start with this, and then we build and run our new container in interactive mode so we can investigate how to set up Helix. Okay, so I do docker build no cache. Why did I do the no cache again? I did something for the some reason for the no cache. The image got created correctly, but we already have run into an issue. Bash is not found in the container. It turns out that the default shell for Alpine is ash. Since we don't want to install extra stuff that we don't need, we'll need to use ash instead. So then we just switch over to ash. Great, we have successfully created a bare bones image. Now we need to figure out how to install Helix. The first thought is to try the package manager in Alpine, APK. Installing Helix is as easy as apk add Helix. We can now use the command hx to run Helix. We don't need to do anything with Helix right now, so let's quit with the command :q. Note that the APK told us that we need to install something called treesitter for Helix to work correctly. Apparently there's a meta package that will work with all languages, so let's use that. Let's go back and add what we've learned into the Docker file. So we add you in, so there's our run, and then this, like sort of what you were saying, Den, we put these together in one line because I don't want like the update to be in one cached layer, and then it's like that to get out of date maybe, because that will never update again. But then this one maybe does, I don't know. We could run into problems with it. We've added the run command to update APK and install Helix and the treesitter grammars. We've also added an entry point. An entry point is similar to a command, but it's meant for Docker images that will be used as executables. Let's quit out of the running container, rebuild the image, and connect back in. Okay, so rebuild, that needs to be up there. Oh, I put all these like different steps too. I forgot about that. Notice that we're not overriding the entry point with the bin ash command. We want to test that this is working as expected. In this case, we're dropping into the Helix editor right away, and if we search for our code, we would find it. When we exit the editor, we are back in our terminal. The basic editor part is done, but Helix doesn't know how to work with any specific languages yet. It also looks terrible. We'll fix both of those in the next sections. Adding Rust support. We'll be using an example Rust repo and then I use my Axum X Twitter clone. Let's clone the repo to our computer. No need to set up Rust to run it or support an editor to view it. We'll be setting that up in the Docker image. We need to install the following for Helix to properly support Rust code: a C compiler like GCC, Rust, and Rust Analyzer. Let's create another container and connect in using ash to figure out how to install these. However, since we set up an entry point, we cannot override it the same way we did with commands. The override would just end up being options to the Helix entry point, which is not what we want. Docker run has a -- entry point override that we can use to set a new entry point. In this case, the ash shell. Okay. C compiler. It turns out that APK has two C compilers, GCC and Clang. Either will work. We'll use GCC here. So we install that with APK add GCC. Let's add this to our Docker file. So I just added this to the end of this APK add. So there we go. Rust. While APK has Rust up, unfortunately, it isn't the right version. We'll need to download Rust up directly from Rust servers and run it. The instructions are for curl, which isn't installed on Alpine, but wget is installed. So we'll need to update our command to work with the install instructions. So wget -o rust up sh, so all fun stuff. Oh, right, that saves it to here. With wget, we use the -o rustup.sh option to save the output to a file, rustup.sh. To execute the file, we'll need to make it an executable. So I chmod it. Finally, we can run the script, answer the questions to install. Finally, we can run the script and answer the questions to install Rust. Rust Analyzer. Rust has been installed manually, but we still don't have Rust Analyzer. We can install that with another rustup command. However, Rust and rustup aren't in our paths. We'll need to first add these to our path, and then we can install Rust Analyzer. One command to rule them all. We figured out how to install Rust and Rust Analyzer. Oh, ad break just started. I didn't see it warn about ad break coming in. I'm going to take the time to do a quick, just sort of walk around break. So get up and stretch. We put on large cat, and I will be right back. Oh, Zilby. He took my seat. All right, well, that means, you know what that means when supervisor does what he wants. Okay, you get to hang out over there. And we get to switch to standing mode. Oh, yeah, you get to see the table raise up. Cat's not there anymore. Okay, we got that. Now look at what this is. This is my floor mat. Okay, ready to continue on. One command to rule them all. We figured out how to install Rust and Rust Analyzer, but it's several steps and it involves interaction. We don't want to have to press yes during the setup process, so we'll need to figure out how to automate this. We can do this in 2 steps. Install Rust and Rust Analyzer at the same time, download Rust and run everything in one go. Download Rust up and run everything in one go. Okay, Rust and Rust Analyzer. We can run the Rust Analyzer and pass it -y to auto press Y for the interactive question. We can also pass it -c Rust Analyzer to auto install the Rust Analyzer component. So we show that. Download and run. Let's combine the wget and rustup commands together to make it easier to run in a Docker file. So in this case, now we have that -o to dash to go to standard out. Instead of wget -o rustup.sh, we now have wget -o dash. The dash tells wget to save the contents to standard out instead of a normal file. After the wget command, we use a pipe to ash dev standard in to auto-execute the file that was downloaded with wget. We can now take what we've learned and add it to the Docker file. Notice the $curly bracket path. This syntax is used in the Docker file to take the environment variable already present in the image and inserts it in the command. Let's test this with a new build and run. We can use the command rustup -- version to verify that Rust is installed and in the path. Editor config. Helix is now supporting Rust, but it doesn't look very good. Let's set a config for Helix. We have a sample Helix config in the code repo. Let's copy that into a file config.toml in our repo. Okay. We need to add this config into the configuration directory that Helix uses, the home directory config Helix. We can do this with the copy command. To make Helix support colors, we'll also need to change the term environment variable to xterm 256 color. Let's rebuild the image and test out the config and make sure that colors are working. Note that we're removing the -- entry point override for this test and adding in the config.toml option so that we load straight into that file. We should be able to see different colors and the dark blue theme. We can quit with the :q return. What did I do there? It was Docker build. What was my run? Oh, run it, remove. Oh yeah, I just went into config.toml there. Running as not root. One last thing to do. Let's create a user so that we can run Helix as that user. Let's create a user that we can run Helix as instead of the root user. So we use the add user -d. Since Rust installs into the user's home directory, we're just using the add user -d option to not set a password. Don't forget to update the paths for the env and copy commands. We're done. Let's do one final test and make sure that everything is working as expected. Deployment. We have a working image that we can now share with our team. We can either have them build the image from the Docker file and then run it, or we can push the image to a repository so they only need to run it. If we want to push to a repository like Docker Hub, we'll first need to create an account. After creating an account, get a read-write access token. Run the docker login command to authenticate to your Docker Hub account. Finally, we can push the image that we created with the docker push command. In my case, you can see the repo at, Helix up there. Now, anyone on your team can just use the docker run -rm -it -v blah 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 command to run Helix on their system without installing Helix or Rust locally. Challenge. Pick a command that you use and wrap it in Docker. Make sure the command is a terminal command. GUI commands are out of scope for this course. All right, it's a lot, 694 lines, but we can do this. Let me move you right. Oh, that puts it back over here. That's not what I want. Okay, I want you there. You go over here. You're gonna stay here. This will be fine. Oh, we're gonna have a new thing. So it's actually, no, I don't want you. I want to create a new directory. I'll probably need you up still. So let's go. We'll just sit in Docker Hub. That'll be fine. Okay, so what are you? You are Dockerizing Helix challenge. Dockerizing Helix challenge. That's a word, right? Okay. I want to maybe move you over. Yeah, let's move you over here. Oh, actually, you know what? No, I don't want to move you. I want to keep you here, and I do that, and now I can come back to here. This is, okay, plain, that's great. I want... I suppose for just a second... No, I should open up VS Code in here. Where do I want to go? I want Dockerized Helix. Git pull, you're already up to date. So open up VS Code here. Right, so this is everything that we built, and this is our config.toml. So we have you set up. So what we can do here is we can start over with a brand new Docker file. And that's it. That's what we're working on. Okay. Fun times. I don't think I have anything more to build on. We can... Does this feel bigger? I feel like I made that bigger somehow. I think this is a better size. All right, why did you switch back to here? I want you to go back to Introduction to Docker. Okay. We should be good now. Batman, hello. How are you doing today? Really have some quality content. Keep it up. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad it's helpful. Okay, let's full screen the lesson over here. So I have this over on the left screen. I'll be doing the recording here, like straight in front of me, and then I have both of your chats up on the right. We don't have ZilbyCam up. I don't have like anything else. So I should be good to go. I should turn down audio just in case somebody hits with that. Zilby's behind me on the chair. Supervising while sleeping. That's his job. So I don't know. I don't think I have anything else to prepare for. I think it's time to just do. So with that being said and done, I guess it's let's do. All right, Dockering with Helix challenge. Where do I want to start this one? I guess like it's time for let's do a challenge. We'll just talk about the lesson and the challenge. All right, whatever. No thinking. We'll just wing it like I always do. In this challenge, we're going to be creating an executable inside of Docker, which is another use case of Docker. And then this video is going to be my walkthrough about how to do it. Now, I've already sort of done this as part of the live streams and preparing for the course. So this isn't quite the same as Discovery that I did previously, but it is going to be the same process that I go through when I figure out like how to Dockerize something. So let's jump into it. For this specific challenge, we're going to be Dockerizing something called Helix. Now, if I pull up my other terminal here, this is Helix. This is a command line editor. If you watch the streams that I do, that I'm on, or a lot of the VODs, it's the main editor that I use, and I like it. It's a CLI editor. It's very similar to NeoVim or Emacs if you're used to those, because they're also command line editors. But if you wanted to set it up yourself, there's some stuff that you need to do. So there's a better way. Like, what if we were to be able to Dockerize it? So that way if you wanted to test it out, you could just run a Docker command and then you have Helix and all of its configuration already set up for you. That's the power of Docker. That's one of the really cool things that we can do. And in this case, it's going to be subtly different than what we used previously, where we're developing in Docker, we're putting an executable in Docker. So let's really quickly just sort of like look at the end result. So we saw the version of Helix that I'm planning on using like just natively on my system, but here in VS Code, I want to be able to do like run a command like docker run. I'm going to use the -it for interactive. I'm going to put the remove so we can remove it later. I don't give it a name. I need to like mount into a directory. So I'm on a Linux system, so it's the pwd to code, and then I want Berserker Helix, I believe is what I named it, and this is on Docker Hub. And then whatever the latest is, I think it's gonna be fine. And then that's it. No extra code. It should just drop me in. So if I run this, repository name must be lowercase. Is it? Let's see, code. Why are you unhappy with that? Let's actually go find this in Docker Hub. So if I look for Berserker, we have, let's go to mine, Berserker Helix. This is what it is. And then tags, we have latest. Okay, so it should just be latest. Latest should work. Let's double check that I've actually copied this correctly. So on Berserker Helix la. So Docker run it rm just one dash for it pwd /code Berserker Helix latest. Repository name must be lowercase. Okay, now we're gonna have to redo it. What did I do wrong? Why doesn't this work? Do I have to? I shouldn't have to pull this first. this should look up Docker Hub. Let's try Docker pull, because I am doing Docker run. That is lowercase too. That's weird. Docker pull Zerker Helix latest. That works. Okay, let's try this again. We'll do a run. IT remove. Oh. Can you see what I did wrong? I forgot the dash V. I forgot the dash V. Okay. Okay, we get to start over again. Now I guess we have this Berserker Helix up here that we can take a look at. All right. Take two. Okay. Pet Zilby for good luck. You won't let me fail a second time, right? All right, here we go. Second try. Welcome to the Dockerizing Helix Challenge. In this challenge, we're going to be taking a command, in this case, Helix, which is a CLI editor. If you've watched my live streams, most of the time, the editor that I'm using is, in fact, Helix. It's very similar to Emacs or NeoVim, basically a CLI editor like VS Code, but in the terminal. And we're going to be putting that into Docker to use it as another use case of Docker, which is as an executable. We can basically run commands from Docker. And this is a challenge in the way that this is going to be more of like a walkthrough. And then I would love if you tried afterwards, try to do this on your own. Try to pick a terminal command that you like to use and then Dockerize it so that anybody else can use it. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this is supposed to look like already on our own. I'm going to go ahead and change directories into some place that I have a like Rust code. Now in the article, I give you a repo to a Rust repository that I've written. I actually just have that locally here. So I'm going to go to our Axum X Twitter clone. And we're going to run Docker run. I want to IT this for interactive mode. We're going to remove this so we don't need the container hanging around afterwards. This is just an example. We are going to volume our current working directory into /code inside. And then that should be it. I don't really need any ports. I don't need anything else enabled for this. And so the name of this image, if we go to Docker Hub, because I have this deployed out so that anybody can run this, is Berserker Helix. So if we copy that, I can paste this in here. We can just do latest. It auto defaults to the latest if you don't hand it the latest tag. We can hit return. It can't find this locally, so it's going to go ahead and download it from Docker Hub. And when it's done, And when it's done, it has dropped us into a Helix editor here in our terminal, which is kind of weird looking to have an editor inside of an editor, but this is what it is. We have a CLI editor now. If I do space F, I can see all the files for this repo is in here. And if I search for like main and load it up, not only is everything sort of like looking correct, if we give it a little bit of time, Rust Analyzer, which is the tool for Rust that basically lints our, it does more than linting our code, but it is it's like an auto correct. It gives us like auto suggestions. It does linting. It does all sorts of different stuff for us. It does take a little bit of while for it to run up, which is more of Rust being slow rather than just it being slow in Docker. But once this loads, it will start giving me good information about like what each type is. And that's that. This is now Rust Analyzer running, well, Rust, I guess, like running in Helix, which we don't have to have installed on our system. So let's walk through of like how to actually do this ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and quit out of it. To quit out is just like Vim. We're going to do just press escape :Q. And then exclamation point. If you accidentally wrote anything in there, this will make sure that you quit out. Otherwise, it will ask you to save or do something else, and we don't need to do that. So quit out. Excellent. Okay, so how do we create something like that ourselves? All right, well, we have to like create our own repo. So let me jump back into our previous directory, which is in this Dockerized Helix. This is the repository that I used to create that repo, but I've deleted all the contents of the Docker files. We can start over from scratch with it. And that's pretty much where we start. We start with a Docker file. So what do we want? Like, what do we want to have? In this case, we want to run Helix, right? It's not going to be specific Helix like only Rust, although right now it only supports Rust. But it could potentially support many other languages. So I don't want to base it on like, Rust Alpine or Rust over anything else. Let's go ahead and just base it on, I'm thinking Alpine here, because I want this to be as small as possible. And already we're going to be installing lots of things, and that will, and I want to show off like my like how I would go about like researching how things work. How to get things to work, even if like even if we don't know how to do them. So we're going to start with from, and then I want Alpine of some kind. So I'm going to go search in Docker Hub for Alpine, and it is indeed just Alpine. So that makes sense. I don't think I care about us like locking it to a specific tag, so I'm just going to use latest. So Alpine latest. We also there's some things that we already know that we need. So for example, we know that we need a volume mount for the code that we're editing, because it is an editor. We need code to edit. So we'll have our volume, and I want this to go into /code. And then a workdir. Okay, so I want to put our workdir into /code, so that way whatever we're doing is now inside of there. Now, I'm a big fan of small changes and testing, so we're going to do that a lot. So I can now, let's close this down because we don't really need much more from the sidebar there. We're going to do a Docker build. Now, while I'm building this, I don't need to use username /Helix like I would when I eventually deploy that. If I were to use I want to do it different here. So we're going to do a build. I'm just going to call it Helix in this specific case. All right, so build Helix. This can be like latest. I don't think it really matters. And then dot. Oh, and it's -t. Build -t. Helix latest dot. This will now build our Docker file, and it's ready for us to test. So we can do a Docker run. Let's see, I want -it, I'm probably going to be using the remove a lot on these. Let's see, it remove, we want our volume. So pwd / code. And I think we don't have any like commands or anything else. I don't know what Alpine is going to drop us into. So we're going to do, we're going to try to override and just go into bash, right? So I want, we call this Helix. So Helix latest bin bash. And the first problem that we run into is here, bin bash doesn't exist. And so it turns out that bash isn't a shell that comes with Alpine by default. And there are other shells that we can use. There is sh, and there is also ash. So if I go to bin ash, that drops us in here. And now we're correctly inside of our container, which is great. All right, so how do we install Helix? Well, Alpine comes with a package manager called APK. And to use APK, we're as root right now inside of here, so it's not really going to be a problem to just run these commands. We don't need sudo, we don't need anything else. We are the root user. So we can just do APK update, and that will fetch all of the repositories that it's going to get updates from. And I can search for Helix. Okay, well, it found Helix 2310. If I want more information on it, just to make sure it really is what I think that it is, we can do APK info, which then tells me, oh, it's a, okay, postmodern modal text editor. That matches, okay, that's the website, that this seems to be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and install this. We're going to do APK install Helix. Right, it's not install. On APK, it's add Helix. Okay, great. So it adds this, but it also tells me that I need to install this tree sitter thing to support different languages. And apparently there's a meta package, tree sitters grammars, to install all of them. Let's just do that one. So we're going to do APK add tree sitter grammars. And now it's added, well, support for all the languages, at least all the languages that we might care about. Like, obviously there's way more languages than this in the world, but these are the ones that tree sitter supports. At least the ones we can get on Alpine here. Okay, so let's take what we've learned and add it back to our Docker file. So let's see. It almost doesn't really matter where I put this. So I'm going to go ahead and just add in a run here. We want to run APK update. And then I'm going to do this and. And the reason I'm going to do this is because each run command is going to be its own layer. And layers are cached. I don't know if you've noticed this when you've run the build command. It's like, oh, pulling this from the cache. Now, if I did APK run APK update and then another run APK add, like Helix, for example, it would run this the first time that we build it. Great, perfect, exactly what we want. But the second time we do this, it would use the cached version of whatever was update, which right away won't be a problem because I'm sure that within minutes there won't be an issue. But if, like, let's say months from now, if this is still the same system we're running on, it will see that cache and reuse it. But what if an update has changed to a repo? Well, now we're not going to get the latest packages because it won't know about them. So we want to make sure that if we ever have a change to this line, it runs everything, including the APK update again. So instead, we're going to do APK update and, so, and if this is successful, also run APK add Helix and then the tree sitter grammars. Okay, this is great. Now, there's another command. We used previously command, right? To run a command from inside of the Docker image when we create the container. But there's another one called execution. Let's see, entry point. And entry point is very similar to command, as in it's going to be the command that we run when we create the container. But the difference here is that this is for executable containers. If there's any extra commands, like an overwrite at the end of the run statement, or if we even have a command, they end up being options added to the end of this entry point, which is really cool. So basically, I'll be able to do Helix space, like run this container space like a file name, and it will just open that up in, well, the Helix editor, which is exactly what we want. So I want to do entry point. Helix is not the command; it's hx to run Helix. And so that should work, but we're going to find out whether or not this does. There's always a chance, and I believe we're going to run into one where it doesn't work when we do this, but we'll fix that. We'll get to that. So let's go ahead and save you. Let's quit out of this container. That container got removed because they had that --rm, and let's go ahead and rebuild this again. So we're going to do docker build. I'll do that, overwrite the Helix latest again. Here is now installed Helix and installed the tree sorter grammars. Everything's fine. So now we want to run this. So we're going to do a docker run. We want the IT again, the RM. We want the volume pwd to /code. We want Helix latest, and that's it. The entry point should now be Helix, and I want to see that I'm dropped into Helix. Well, hey, there we are. We're dropped into Helix. This is great. Notice that it looks really terrible compared to that Helix version that we ran before. And that's because there's no config. We don't have any, there's no configuration set up. There's no theme set up. So this is like the default one that you would get on your system if you just run it to begin with at the beginning. But the basics should still work. I should still be able to do space F and then see our Docker file and this config that I just happen to have in here. So this is great. I mean, at this point in time, I could start using this Helix to edit the Docker file and then rebuild from there. I'm not gonna do that though, because everything looks better in VS Code here. So we're gonna go ahead and quit, and we're out of that. And notice that as soon as we quit Helix, we're out of the container. So the container quits out because it is the executable essentially. It's not running something else. So this is great. Excellent. We have Helix. Now we need to add language support. So to do that, we're going to, we need a couple different things. So in order to install Rust, we need a C compiler of some kind in here. And, you know, Alpine is really interested in being a really small image, so it doesn't have a C compiler for us right now, but we can APK add one. We just have to choose which one we want. And it turns out that there's two choices for us. We can add GCC or Clang. So I'm just going to go with GCC. So if we jump back into one again, so we want to Docker run. Now, what happens if I want to, because if I try to like jump into here and like, I don't know, let's do bin ash, it actually loads the bin ash repo as opposed, like into Helix, as opposed to, or not repo, command. Like it opens up the command in Helix, which is not what I want. So to override the entry point, we can give it another command here before the Helix latest, which is -- entry point. And then I want that to be bin ash. And that drops us into ash inside of the container. Excellent. So we want to install GCC. Yeah, GCC. So if I do apk search GCC, we have a bunch of these, but I do see just GCC available here. If I do a APK info GCC, it knows what that is. It's the GNU compiler. Okay, this is going to be fine. This is exactly what we want. So I want to do a APK add GCC. This is pretty fast. It just sort of adds that. So let's go ahead and add in GCC here. All right. While we're here, we can sort of experiment with also adding in Rust. Like, what do we need to do to get Rust installed? Now, usually we use RustUp to install Rust. And RustUp there is a version of RustUp available on the APK repo, but it's not the right version. It actually is missing, it's old enough version that it's missing the right, like it won't auto install things for us that we really need. So instead, we're going to have to go grab the latest version of RustUp from, well, Rust. And we can go find rustlang. We want to get started. And here's the command that we want to run. The problem, obviously, hey, no, not now. The problem, obviously, is that this is curl. And we don't have curl, we have wget. So I need to essentially do this with wget. So let's see what we can do here. I'm gonna hit Control C so I don't actually run that, but we can use this as our reference. So if we do wget, I don't need to tell it to use protocol HTTPS. I think this will be fine. I think what I can do is I can just say, hey, give me this. So if I just use that and I don't do anything else, it saves it to index.html, which is not really all that helpful. But that index.html is the RustUp script. I can actually run it as RustUp. So here, I can chmod it to make sure it's executable. So plus executable index.html, and we can just run index.html. And it's actually now attempting to install Rust. Great. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. We can do better. So if we do wget help, there's a couple options here. So if one of them is this output file. So I could output this to a file, and then we can like manually install it and figure out how to install everything. But there's this save to file that for standard out. So I could do wget -o dash for standard out. So standard out is, if we take a look at this command again, standard out is basically to the terminal. So if I don't do anything else, it's just going to dump this entire script to my terminal, which is not great, but the pipe here allows us to pipe into another command, which in this case, sh shell is going to be then executing that. So we could pipe that to, let's try sh and see if that works. That give us, oh, I need to give it the actual URL, don't I? Which is this. So copy you, put you in here, it downloads it, and now it's trying to just run this, which is great. Okay. Problem, it wants input here, which is not great. I need this to basically just automate run, because we can't give input when we do a cargo build. It has to be all just on its own. So once again, we're going to cancel this, and I need to maybe -- help and see if there's like any information that we can do. Unfortunately, let's see, that didn't help there. Maybe it's like -h. Oh, it's just writing this to standard. Okay, so let's actually write this instead of the standard out. Let's write this to a file. I'm going to call this rustup rustup.sh. We want a chmod plus x to rustup.sh. We want to run rustup.sh. Okay, and then we can get some help here. All right, so what can we do here? Usage. Okay, rustup init, which is rustup. That's what we want. Dash v for verbose. I don't really care about verbose. We can quiet for the progress output. I don't actually care one way or the other for that. Ooh, disable confirmation prompt -y. So okay, we want a -y in there. Let's see, default host. Okay, that's fine. Default tool chain. That's okay. Profile, like none of those I really care about. Oh, components. So I mentioned before that we're using Rust Analyzer. So we need Rust Analyzer as the component. So that's something we could add in. And then the rest of it, we're just going to let it auto detect slash, create as their normal defaults. Let's bring this back in again. And we're going to have -y for the yes, and then -c Rust Analyzer. And illegal option -y. Is this probably because like the shell? So instead of this, what if I put this into Ash? Are you happy? No. Okay, so I have to pipe this to I have to figure out how to get the shell. That is a shell here. So how do I get it to execute what I want? Maybe this -c. Like I see this -c in script within args for that. That might work. Let's try that. So we'll do shell -c, and then there's args, I'm assuming for the script. So let's find out. Oh, but that's for standard out. Looking at like how I did this before. It was, let's see, putting it all together. Oh, I did use, okay, yeah. So in Ash, there is this -dev standard in that we can use. So, okay, get this from standard in, which grabs it, well, whatever was to standard out here, then grab it from standard in, okay, and then I can, the rest of this works. So I want the -y. I don't want this -c in here because it's not a command. And then this should work. This installs Rust. This installs Rust Analyzer, and everything, and gets everything the way we want it to. Okay. Let's go ahead and take what we learned here, and while this is installing, and add it into our Docker file. So we already got the GCC, so this is gonna be another run, so its own layer after this. So it's gonna be run. Let's up arrow for this and copy you in to here. Okay, excellent. Rust is now installed. This is great. Okay, to get started, you may need to restart your current shell. This would reload your path environment variable to include cargo's bin directory, which is in our home directory, cargo bin. Okay, that's something good to be aware of. Now, if I attempted to use something like rustup version just to sort of see what version it is, it doesn't, actually not rustup. I want to check out cargo is something installed with Rust. So let's do cargo version. It doesn't know what is found, where that is. But if we take a look at our home directory, so if I cd into my home directory, which in this case is root, there should be a .cargo in there. So I need to update my shell. So that's going to be a export path equals, where is this? This is going to be root cargo bin, and then I want the rest of path in here too, so I don't lose that. And now if I try to use like cargo version, now I can see that. So I need this command too. So after this is done, we need to do a run export. Oh, but actually I don't need to do an export path like this with run because we have environment. So we would do environment variables. Our key is going to be path. And then the value is going to be, well, in this case, it's root cargo bin, and then the path. Now I can't just do $path, but notice how VS Code is trying to be really helpful and saying like, hey, I have all these others here. We can try one of those. So curly brackets, path like that. Now the curly brackets here is telling Docker to use the environment variable that already exists in the image for this, which is going to be perfect. That's exactly what we want. So if we save that, that updates our path, and we should be good to go here. Let's go ahead and test this out. So I'm going to exit out of our container. We're going to rebuild this. Back into latest again. It's now, okay, so it's installing the tree sitter, installing all this stuff, installing Rust now, and Rust Analyzer. Excellent. Okay, so let's test. Let's make sure that this works the way we expect it to. So I'm going to go ahead, not up arrow return. We're going to go into our run again. Our entry point is still bin ash. That's fine. We're going to drop into our container here, and all I want to do is run that the command cargo -dash version. And there we go. Cargo is installed. That means Rust has been installed. Excellent. That's exactly what we were looking for. Okay, perfect. So next up, we want to config. We want to make the Helix editor look good, because if you remember, it just sort of was black and white. It doesn't look good at all. Now in here, in the repository that I linked in the article is this config, and this is a Helix config that we can use. We want to add this into the appropriate spot, which on a Linux system is going to be in the home directory of whoever you're using as .config helix, and then it just is config.toml. So let's go ahead and add in a copy. So we want to copy. Our source is going to be this config.toml. And then the destination here is going to be, well, the home directory. So this is going to be root, not cargo. We want config helix. And then I just want this to be config.toml there. Okay. So if we save that, let's go ahead and quit out of here. We have to rebuild this again. It's super fast to build now because of those cached layers. Let's remove the entry point, so that way we are just using the entry point that we have in there, which is the to run Helix. And now everything looks a lot better. It's a dark mode now. We don't have pure white blinding our eyes. Everything still works the way we expect it to. And if we jump into let's say the Docker file, yeah, things are different. They look better. So let's go ahead and exit out. And okay, so what else do we need to do? We want to set this as a user to not run as root, because writing all of our code as root is not necessarily the best idea. So we already have, previously when we used Alpine, that user add user. So let me go it was user add, right? Well, let's jump in to, where's my run? Come in here, it was add, yeah, add user. And if I take a look at help here, we'll use this because we're going to have to do something slightly different. Because Rust is installing into the user's home directory, we have to have a separate home directory. Otherwise, Rust is going to be installed into the /code directory alongside where our source code is, which is not great. We don't want that. So we want to do add user. Let's allow it to create its own home directory. So I don't need to override it and tell it. All I really need to do is don't assign a password. And it will create the home directory automatically. And that's it. So just -d. So I should be able to, let's put all the runs together here. So we'll do a run add user. We'll just do a -d because that's the only one I care about. And we'll name this code, or maybe Helix, Helix user. And then that's it. That should drop us into Helix user. Now, we can have multiple work directories at once. So if I maybe drop our very end work directory down here, let's do another work directory as /home Helix user. And that's going to be the home directory that we've just created. And it should be the correct path too. Okay. I should also realize I should, because we have this /code, let's go ahead and make sure that everything is owned by the user. So we're going to run chown, and then it's Helix user /code. And then I want to make sure that this is just the home directory. I think that works because let's do can't remember if I need a -r, like a recursive on that or not. Well, let's do the recursive on it and that'll be fine. Okay, this happens like before anything's in there anyway. So yeah, I guess in that case, the recursive won't really matter. All right, work there, we do that. Environment, okay, so we have this entry point. This is great. We want to update all of these things to now work with this new user. So let's rearrange this and sort of take a look at what we've got. So we have our from Alpine latest. We have this volume code. We install Helix, tree sitters, grammars, and GCC. We grit Rust and install it. We create a new user. We update the code directory. We change our work directory to home Helix user. And at that point, I actually don't know if I need to change the work directory to the home Helix user. I don't think there's anything we're doing with that. Environment. Okay, so we have to update our path. So instead of root, this is now going to be /home Helix user cargo bin path. Okay, so what that means is before I run this command here, we have to do this as the user. So we're going to do user Helix user. Well, that means that this needs to be created up here. That needs to be after the Helix user is created, is switched to, and the chown, that needs to be run as root. So this needs to be root, this needs to run, then we switch over to Helix user, and everything else is now as Helix user. Okay, that's great. So we run wget, we set our environment variables to home Helix user cargo bin path. Okay, that's great. Entry point, I'm gonna go ahead and put this at the bottom. I just like to have the entry point at the bottom because to me, like I always look at the bottom for like wherever is the command that runs in the image. We have copy config toml. Okay, so I want to copy this as / into home. The home, what is it called? Home Helix user. config helix, and then there's a command we can chown helix user so make sure that this is chowned into the correct user here. Okay, so that works fine. And then we're going to switch our work directory to /code, which is where all the work is going to be happening, and then entry point helix. All right, I think we're done, but we want to do a test. We want to make sure that everything really is working the way we expect it to. So another build. So docker build. And then you failed. Okay, so when I tried to run chown, it did not complete successfully. Why? So it just didn't work. It didn't work the way we wanted to. Now, what we can do is I can comment this out. Let's rebuild this again. Whenever something doesn't work like this, I like to do that comment out, so that way I can, well, everything else should work, hopefully. I can jump in there and we can find out why didn't it work. Maybe we can then run the command and then get it, well, make it work. So let's jump back into here again. We're do docker run. I do want the entry point bin ash, because we're running as the wrong user here. This is, who am I? Is the Helix user, which I won't have permissions to do this. So hold on, I have to quit out of here. I want to comment out everything else. Good news, that makes the build really fast. So we're gonna rerun this. Who am I? We're root again. PWD, we're in / because our work directory was never set. Now we want to, the add user was set for this. So I want to try running this command here. Chown helix user, and that works. Huh. Let's echo, that was a 0. It told me that it was a non-zero exit code. And then if I take a look at the volume, ls -al/code, it is now helix use. Okay, so that's what I expect. Now all of these are also root 2, which is not great. It'd be nice if they were owned by helix user. So maybe we need to do this after, well, actually shouldn't really matter. It should still be fine. Let's try chown helix user to /code. Let's try a chown -r for recursive. Let's see if it really wants that. And if I build this again, let's see if we get that same error. We do. So we add the user, helix user, and then we attempt to chown /code with this. So failed to process, bin sh, c chown, helix user. Oh, now I was trying to use bin sh. That's interesting. Now if I go back into our run again, now even though that build didn't work, I can still jump in via the run because the previous image still exists for us. Now we just noticed that this is bin sh that is trying to run here. So what if we use what if we switch to bin sh -c for command, and then we put this chown in here. That is, did I really put bin bash? I want bin sh. Okay, so we have an error because this is not expected. Okay, so I want chown recurse. Okay, so hide errors, change the GUI. It wants chown and then a file /code. That should work. Now, if we just switched over into sh and we tried the chown command here. So if I want chown recursive Helix user user. Oh, permission denied. Who am I? I am root. So permission denied on this. Oh, because you know what? When we initially do this, this will not be, it will not have data inside of this. So maybe let's actually try not having this and see if we don't need that. Okay, let's drop the rest of this in here, because the rest of the files are root anyways, and I can't change them at build time because they don't exist in there yet. So let's go ahead and exit out. We'll do our build again. There we go. Okay, so we have our we have built our image. Let's go ahead and run this as a test. So our docker run. Docker run. I want the one with no entry points that we just go with Helix latest. That drops us in here. If we come into our like Docker file, for example, let's see if we can update this and make sure that we have write access here. If I add a new line and we say, hello, I do, so I for insert, I wrote the commands in there. I wrote into the article like the commands of basically running around. I gets me into insert mode, and then I can do escape:\w to save, and that adds us in. So I don't need to set the user of the /code. Everything just works the way we expect it to, even though we're now user Helix user. So everything is good. I didn't need to go down that side path. Excellent. So I just saved that. If I want to reload this, I can reload you, but that's not necessary. So to exit out again, we're going to do escape exit. Yeah, escape :q bang, and we're out. And there we go. We have Helix as an executable in a Docker file, which is great because we can now basically run an editor if we want without actually having to install it, as long as that editor is a CLI editor. It's out of scope for this this course to do a more graphical based tool like VS Code itself. So how do we want to share this, right? Because if you have coworkers, if you have people that you want to share your command with, they would have to download your repo, they're going to need Docker regardless to run it, but they'd have to build it with a Docker build command, and then they can run it. And if they don't know Docker, that's going to be a little bit harder to walk them through than maybe just like a single command, like, okay, just run this Docker run command here. I'm just pasting into you as one command. Just go ahead and do it. And to do that, we need to deploy this to Docker Hub. So that's pretty easy. First off, you need to create an account on Docker Hub. So up here, you can sign up. Now, I already have an account on here, so I'm going to just go ahead and sign in and put in okay, I'm now signed in to Docker Hub. If we come over here to the top right, we can go to, I believe it's my account. Let me make sure there's nothing I'm going to expose in here. Yes, I think we're good. Okay, so in the top right, we're going to go into my account and then security. And this is where we can create a brand new access token. And so if you create a new access token, you can name it whatever you want. And this is going to be an access token that can be used to deploy out to Docker Hub. Let me make this bigger so you can see. Now, so in this case, I'll do this as maybe like Docker course example, not real. And you want to make sure that the permissions you're going to give this token is at the very least read and write, because that will allow you to publish your image to Docker Hub. Now, in this case, I'm just going to do this as public repo read only because this immediately exposes that token to the internet, and anybody who copies this will now not really be able to do anything with it because it is it's only going to be public repo read only, which you could already do without a token. So you're going to take this token, you're going to copy it. We're going to come back into VS Code, and you're going to do a Docker login. Now, I already had credentials. It's going to ask you for the token. You can paste it in there, and now you're logged in to Docker Hub. And then the next thing you can do is, well, we can't really Docker push yet because we've been building our images as Docker build as just Helix latest, and we need to namespace them. So we need to namespace this as our username. So in this case, it's brookzerker/Helix. I'm going to create a new tag for this, which is going to be like just like video. I'll call this like a video lesson. Dot is going to be fine. It's going to build this image. If I do our Docker images, we can now see here's our Brookzerker Helix video. I want to now push that one up. So we're going to do a Docker push Brookzerker Helix video. And this pushes to my account on Docker Hub. And as long as you've logged in with a read-write token, you'll be able to do the same thing. All right, so that should be up. Let's go ahead and check Docker Hub. I'm going to go ahead and copy and close, and then immediately last used never. Let's go ahead and just delete that token too. So that way nobody can even use the token that doesn't do anything. All right, so back to my repo. So I just want to go to my profile, and if we go to Helix here, and we go to tags, we should now see here is the Brookzerker Helix video tag that I just uploaded. So this is now available on Docker Hub, and it can be pulled down. Notice that nobody has pulled it down at this point. We just put it up there. So that's fine. That's great. Also something to note, which will be solving in the next lesson, which is that this is built only for my system. So Linux ARM 64 V8, which is basically the Mac M chips, which means that if you're not on one of those systems, it won't work. So you would need to rebuild this with something else. Don't worry about that. Check the next lesson for how to do that. And with that, that's this challenge done. So as I mentioned at the beginning, my challenge to you, try this now with your own command, something else that you really like. It can be as simple as something like ls or cat, but if you have any other CLI command that you really like or that you want like available to you, maybe like customize it with some other commands, then try to put that in a Docker file, a Docker image, and put that up onto your own Docker Hub. And that way, now it's available to you wherever you want. Obviously, this is going to be a public Docker Hub, so make sure that it's not something with like secret private information. But as long as it's publicly, like it's okay to be public, then go ahead and put it up there. And we'd love to hear about what you made. Let us know in the Discord. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this is helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. All right, Skimus, I saw your message. I said cargo build, and I was like, oh no, okay. So it was into the recording. I don't know if I'm going to try to cut that out, or if I'm going to learn how to put like a little note in the video on it, say like, oh, I meant like Docker build. I might do that. I'm not good enough to like override the audio with and make it actually sound good. So I'm probably going to just like do something visual for that. And then apparently Coffee, yeah, I don't know why it didn't like that. So we're that was a fun little side expanse, which like we didn't need to go into. If I can figure out a way to cut that out, but I put the original in there all the time. I might speed through it. I don't know. Or maybe I'll just keep that in there, and then we'll just be like, hey, this is how I learned. This is how you do stuff. It's an example of that. This is more of a challenge as opposed to a lesson. So hopefully it should be good. All right. Anyways, that was a lot. Ooh, and then I learned these new commands. So, okay. You go up there, you go down here. The second one was down at 2 hours, 17 minutes. Just go ahead and say that. The last real video, the last lesson video of the series. Now there's going to be some other videos that we have to do. We have to put in things like, I have to put in something like, what is it? Like a trailer, maybe an introduction video, maybe we want a thanks for watching video, something like that. All right. How long until the next break? $44 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick break now because I noticed that the ads rolled through that that video, but that was a long recording. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a quick break. Zilby took my chair in the last one, which is why I'm standing now. So unfortunately, I can't show you Zilby and let you watch him sleeping. Oh, you just downloaded the Helix container from Docker Hub. Does it work? The latest one should work for most systems. The one I just did will only work if you're on a Mac, I believe. Or an ARM system of some kind. The next lesson we're going to do is all about like building for multiple runs. So I'm going to take a really quick break. I'll be right back. And let's see, unable to create a new application caused by no such file or directory. Well, that's a different. Try. Well, Debian, you should get a different error. I would imagine you should get a different error. Let's see if we do Docker run. Let's see, what should it be? It should be IT RM. Albert, hello. How are you doing today? That, and we want Berserker Helix. Try this one, right? So if you run that, that drops you in here. And then you have access to all the stuff, and then it should kind of work. It only has Rust support right now, but let me drop this command in. Give that command a shot, Coffee. And in the meantime, I am going to I'm going to go take that break I mentioned. Docker error response for doing OCI runtime, starting container internet caused by open no such file directory unknown. Huh, that's interesting. I don't know what that is about. That's weird. I don't have a Debian system right now to test that out. Interesting. It worked on my Windows system. Can somebody else test that out while I'm on break? See if like it's consistent, like doesn't work on all of your systems, or if it's just Debian. I would imagine that Debian would be like the least breaky one, but weird. Okay, anyways, I will be right back. All right, I'm back. Okay, it's working, Coffee. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. That works. Funny editor with some incumbents that you're used to don't have the same behavior. Yes, that's the big thing. Yeah, don't the like for example, the biggest change, the one that was hardest for me is X selects the entire line in Helix, and in Vim, it deletes a single character. Whereas in Helix, also D deletes a single character, and then DD deletes an entire line. So, like to delete the entire line in Helix, it's XD versus DD, and so like it's really easy to like accidentally start like selecting things that you don't want to, and it's like, oh no, what am I doing? Are you happy, Zoe? He's still in my chair, using like giving me a slow blink, so he's happy. All right, that is we're so close to being done. You're struggling with D command. Yeah, DJ. Yeah. Oh yeah. As far as I can tell, there's no like delete down, delete up, delete right. There's none of those. Delete word. You just select the word. Like if you move word with a like W, it selects the words as you go. So it's you obviously could Vimify with some clever configs, but I would like, if you wanted to try to use Helix for real, then I would recommend just trying to get used to it. I always use the analogy of like a video game controller or like a different video game where like, oh man, they use very similar controls but like do very different things. Then you have to they usually learn that thing. It's like, I guess it's like a different context, right? It's like, okay, I'm on this controller now. Skimus, you've been using Helix regularly these days, even contributed a bug fix today. Nice, excellent. That's great. What was the bug fix? Or what was the bug? Oh, and coffee. If you're in normal mode, you can do space question mark, and it opens up the equivalent of the VS Code command module something, and then you could just type whatever you want. It's like you can even see like literally move left one character is here. I get to do down arrow and like it tries to move left one character, and so it will tell you what the shortcut is for that. So you can actually see like, okay, if I want delete, like, you know, there's different things. Now in this one there is no shortcut for it, so it's just delete character forward, but there's things that you could figure out. It wouldn't save change history when doing a paste replace, so it was possible to put the editor in a state where it didn't know you have edited the file and allow you to quit without saving a file. Oh, I am so happy we haven't run into that bug. That sounds like a nightmare. That would have been rage inducing. Okay. Building Docker images for multiple platforms. Objectives. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to build a Docker image for multiple platforms. Content. When we build a Docker image using Docker build, that image is built for the current platform that you are using. For example, if you're on a MacBook Pro, that image will now only work on MacBooks. However, we can build images for other platforms with the docker build -- platform command. Okay, for the at the same time. Okay, so we have that. View build details. Nope, that's all part of that. The chances of actually encountering it would be pretty small, I think, because it's not like it was clearing the change history, just not storing some of it. So as long as you have made at least some other changes, the history will block the quit. Excellent. That's good to know. And that's probably why we have never run into that. Because I've never been like doing one thing and quitting immediately. I bet if I did that, if I was in the habit of doing that for some reason, then I might have run into it. Multiple platforms at the same time. By default, Docker can only build for one platform at a time, which is annoying. We can create a new builder using Docker build X and use it to build an image with the same tag for multiple platforms at the same time. Read this article from Red Hat to learn how. Okay, so we have to create a builder. And then we can build, then we do the build with the different platforms. And then this auto pushes it. This just auto pushes it too. Never minding newness. Never ending newness. Hello, how are you doing today? What's going on here? We're making CI/CD pipelines. Not exactly. We're building a course for Docker. So in this case, like this specific lesson, we're reviewing that we wrote last week. We're going to be creating a video for it shortly. This specific video is going to be about building, like cross building a image for multiple architectures all in one go using BuildX. And okay, so that's pretty simple. This took us like all day to figure out, I remember. And then like the article is so freaking short. Just fun. That's how it be, right? Oh, right. And I remember that this one, Docker Desktop's going to make an appearance. Because under builds, no. These are the completed, builder settings. Yes, this is where it is. There's my multi-platform builder that I created previously. Okay, so yes, I'm going to create, we create another builder. It shows up in here and, okay. That's good to know. So let's see. What do I need open? I need that. Okay, so this shows us the different platforms we can build for. And then I also want this article for multiple architectures. Okay. Good to know. And then that does the thing. Okay, so I think we're about ready to try to record this. There's I guess we could stay with this VS Code, and we'll just use this terminal here to now build our Dockerized Helix for multiple commands. That's fun. Okay, so this is okay. I need you to be over here. You go over here. Yeah, we just have these two up, so this is gonna be great. Oh, let's go to Docker Hub. And then we'll see, okay, notice that this is only available on Linux ARM. I'm just trying to select it. I don't want to like click into it. I have to go like that, which selects all that. That kind of sucks. Yeah, because this entire line is clickable. That's not great. Okay, so yeah, if I want it available on like AMD 64 or ARM 64 at the same time for one tag, then I have to do this BuildX thing. All right, let's see. I don't think I'll start over here an overview for this. Make you full screen. You're full screen. Okay, I think we're good to start. So let's see how many takes this how many takes this takes? How many tries we take? I don't what's the right word? I guess it is takes, right? How many takes? Now it doesn't feel right English wise. I don't know how to English anymore. Okay, so take one. In the last video, we created our own executable with Helix, but we ended by noting that this version that we've created, this image, only works on the same architecture that we built it on. Now, I'm on a Mac, which means that it's only going to be able to run on a Mac, which is unfortunate because what if I have friends who I want to be able to run it on their Linux system or somebody on a Windows system? It's not going to work for them. Now, if we take a look here, my latest, I actually have multiple multiple architectures supported with the same tag. That's what we want to do. But before we get into that, let's even just talk about how do we build for something that's not even our own system. Well, it turns out that there is you can build for other platforms with the build when you do the build command. And then these are architectures that we can target here. And we do that with the -- platform command. So let's go ahead and jump back into our terminal and do a Docker build again. And I want to do a -- platform and we need to choose which platform we want. Now, we can note that the one we did, which the video tag here, that gave us the Linux ARM64 V8. So we can guess that we already have the Linux ARM64. If we look at what's available to us, we can do AMD 64. Let's try that. So platform AMD, I think was it like Linux AMD 64. And there goes, it builds this. Everything should be pretty much the same, except now if I try to run this locally, it should yell at me and tell me that I can't because this is built for the wrong architecture. It's built for AMD 64, which I don't believe is compatible with Mac, but we're going to find out fairly shortly. So if I try to run this now, so docker run, it's the same. Oh, this is Brookzerker Helix and Brookzerker Helix video. Oh, did you? I don't know if you noticed that. That was really fast. The requested images platform does not match the detected host platform, and no specific platform was requested. So it kind of works, but it knows that this is the wrong platform. So that's the problem. Now we can, this is how we can fix it, is by building for multiple platforms at the same time. Now, if we now deploy that tag that we made, it would update here in Docker Hub, and it would be the Linux AMD 64 instead of the ARM 64, which is perfect. But what if I want to build for both at the same exact time? Well, that's where the other link in the article comes in, which is this one here. So it's from redhat.com, and they wrote this article about how to use something called Docker BuildX. BuildX allows us to create a new builder because unfortunately, by default, the builder that Docker gives us only allows us to do a single platform at a time, which kind of sucks. But we can create a new builder itself with this command. So we're going to do this. We're going to do Docker BuildX create use name and then my builder. So I'm going to just go ahead and copy this line. So Docker BuildX create use name, and then let's do this as like maybe like video multi. Okay, well that was pretty fast. Now, if you're using Docker desktop, so if you're on a Mac or Windows, you absolutely have to have that. If you installed it for Linux, you'll also be able to see this here. If we open up Docker desktop, over on the left, we can go to builder settings here, and then under builders, we can now see video multi. So we just created this builder. It exists for us. Unfortunately, I can't make this any bigger. Oh, wait, I can. There we go. Never mind. I lied for a second. Okay, so here's this video multi-builder that we created, but it's not active. It's just sort of sitting there. So the next line that they give us here activates the builder, which is this BuildX inspect it, and then with this bootstrap command. So let's go ahead and run that. Docker BuildX inspect bootstrap. Okay. Now, if we take a look at this, I think this will auto show us, yep, it switched to running right then with that command. It's a little bit weird that you have to do that. Now, if you're running Docker desktop, I believe that you can actually just switch it to running through here and you don't need this command. But if you don't have Docker desktop, then we wanted to use this to make sure it switches to running and turns it on. Okay, next up. Now we can do a build command. So we want to build. So let's copy this command, but before running it, we're going to go ahead and just like verify that this is exactly what we want, right? So Docker BuildX build platform, and then the platforms that we want to build for. So in this case, it's going to build for two different platforms, Linux AMD 64 and Linux ARM 64 together. Well, that seems to be appropriate for us. The ARM64 will work natively with Mac, and then the AMD64 will work natively with Linux, I believe that should be enough. Now, if there's other architectures that you need support, just figure out what they are based upon the previous documentation, and then you can drop them in here. Notice that they're comma separated without a space, so something to be aware of. Output. So this output, this is output. It's all one line here, which is a little bit unfortunate. Dash dash output, and then a string. So we're actually quoting this here. Type equals image. So we're creating an image here. And then push equals true. So when we run this, it's going to attempt to push this to Docker Hub. Otherwise, you want this to be push false so it doesn't push to Docker Hub. In this case, I'm still logged into Docker Hub, so pushing this is going to be fine. I'm okay with that. This backslash makes it so that it can be on a new line. That's okay too. Dash dash tag. Okay, so now we can, what the tag is going to be. This was previously similar to the dash T command with the build. So my registry, so I need to make sure that this is Berserker, Helix, and let's give it another tag. So this will be like maybe video with Arch. And then the builder, so dash dash builder, and then we have to give it the name of the builder to use. Now, if you remember, our builder is called video multi. So we have to use that. So video multi, and then dot, well, the context, where it's going to find the Docker file. So there we go. This now is building both of them at the same time, which is really cool to see. And once it's built them both, it's going to then upload them to Docker Hub for us. There we go. Okay, so it has now exported. Okay, so it's created all the images. It's now pushing the layers to Docker Hub. And we're done. Let's go to Docker Hub and actually check to make sure it did what we expect it to. And if we hit refresh here, we should be able to see a new tag, which is video with Arch, and there it is. This one tag now has support for two different architectures, the Linux AMD 64 and the Linux ARM 64. So as long as your architecture supports this version should now no longer give you warnings, or in the worst case scenario, just not work at all, which is something that can happen. It's especially happened to me when I've attempted to build a Docker image on my Mac and then deploy it to a Linux system for on AWS. And that's it. That's this lesson. Hopefully this is helpful in being able to build for multiple architectures. If you're only using Docker for dev, this probably won't be useful for you. But if you want to build images that maybe teammates on multiple systems can use, then this hopefully will be very helpful. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. All right. And I think that I don't know if that will be the last video of the series or not, but that certainly is the last planned video we have. Oh, and let's see, can I... Oh, okay, so I need to pull you back over here. Where's my other... You go here. And you go there. Okay. Whew, that's it. That is all of the videos recorded into the VODs. Now, steps that I need to do, which probably I need to do off screen, is I need to cut them out of the videos. I am woefully behind on I think I'm not even done going through the first week of January yet. But I have like VODs of every day through them. So I need to find which ones we started on with this. And then pull out the videos for that and do that. So I'm trying to think like what my plan is going to be. I had planned for like, I wasn't actually sure if I was going to get these done today. And like maybe we're gonna have a stream for that tomorrow, but I'm wondering if maybe it might be more worth everyone's time if I like end the stream now, took another short break, maybe went for a walk, and then start finding those VODs and then pulling out the videos from it. So that way maybe like next week I can get this deployed, because obviously I can't like deploy the course until I have those videos out. Also, I need to create like the introduction to it, but I want to like have everything set up and do some tests on it. So I'm thinking about that. That's my thoughts right now. In the meantime, do any of you have any questions? Any thoughts? Feelings? Oh, I got tagged in Discord. Oh, weird. Okay, so you know how in streamer mode for Discord it hides usernames? It's supposed to hide usernames. It doesn't do a very good job of it. That's so weird. It like sometimes hides usernames and sometimes doesn't. I don't really get why it sometimes doesn't. What's going to be the next thing since the streaming part of this project is done? Yeah, so next steps. I need to cut all the videos out. I need to put on like we need to create like the beginning, which I already have now, like right. I can use these that I've created as like the thumbnail, like sort of beginnings of them. And then I already have like a thanks for watching end screen, so I can put that on the end. So I have to cut all of those out. create like short videos from them, upload those to YouTube as unlisted, and then get the videos and then add the URLs to them, which I can do that on stream. I just don't think I'm going to be able to cut all the videos out before tomorrow, because I'm still really slow with using video editing tools. So that's, I think that I might have to take the rest of the today off, take tomorrow off. By off, I mean off from streaming, and instead just focus on getting the videos cut out. And then Tuesday next week, we can jump into like actually uploading this into the LMS and then getting going. I think that's the plan. Somebody on Discord pinged me, or Kyle pinged me. Kyle's been in our community in Discord, pinged me on a different server for someone who was asking a question about working in VR. Does anybody here get work done in VR? I'm mainly just curious about it. It seems like it could be really fun. I wonder in particular about how Vim people feel about it. I wonder if you can just look at a screen, close your fingers, and boom, hands never left the keyboard, and I'm exactly where I want to be without having to remember shortcuts. I mean, yes. Once you know how to do stuff, like when I'm moving around in Helix, I'm not thinking about like, you know, oh, I have to like look at my keyboard to like, okay, well, that's where K is, I'm moving up, or that's where J is, I'm moving down, or that's like W. I can touch type, so I can move around that way. The problem that I'm concerned about the most is reading in VR sucks. Now I do have a Quest 2, and it's okay at reading from the desktop, but still, like, after a while you get some eye strain, like a lot more eye strain than just a normal monitor. So that's the problem. Now, if somebody wanted to give me enough money to buy an Apple Vision Pro, theoretically, the early reports of that is that the pass-through for it is, or maybe not even pass-through, like reading in that is supposed to be the best of all of the systems that like close over your eyes and like cover it up. And then I can answer this question of like how like the most awesome recent stuff does. But I don't have a spare $3,000 to spend on that, so I can't answer it, unfortunately. So let's see, when is that? That is 2:58:50. Okay. Answered in today's VOD. 0 to 58:50. Okay. Well, that's the only question we have right now. So I think we're gonna go ahead and call it a day. And I'm gonna go ahead and cancel tomorrow's stream. So I'll delete that from YouTube, and I'll delete it from the events in Discord and the calendar and Twitch. And then I've got my work cut out for a couple days, or actually the rest of the week, to pull out those videos. I do have, I have been pulling out like hour-long or so VODs, like cutting hours or so from the previous VODs. And I think I have through Like every day a new VOD is coming out through the 23rd. So I am happy about that. So I don't have to like, pull out other VODs just to put up onto the YouTube channel to make sure I have something every day. So that's good. I should sometime ask should sometime find somebody like who can maybe help me with VOD editing, even if it's like bare bones. I don't know who to go find. So if anybody knows anybody, send it to me in Discord. All right, ads are trying to start in a minute, so I'm going to go ahead and close up before that happens, so you don't have to get another set of ads from me. So with that, I will see you all next week, Monday, for more Git and Rust. We're getting really close with that one. We're doing a diff. We're having to like take a diff and put things together. It's fun. So with that, have a good one, and I will see you next time. Bye.